What's up, guys? Welcome to Bro Beats, and today I'm going to be showing you guys some tips that you can use to make your beats more rappable. If you guys haven't subbed already or turn post notifications on, make sure you do so because it helps out a lot. So let's hop right into it. And to start, we're going to start with the most underrated one. This is something you could do before you even start a beat or even add a VST or put any drums in. All right, so we're going to be talking about the tempo tapper. Now, this is the absolute most important and underrated thing that producers forget to do, in my personal opinion, just because when you make a beat, you already have a rhythm and everything in your head, right? Now, what most people do, they say, oh, a lot of people are making beats at 170 nowadays. I'm gonna use 170. So you're forcing that upon yourself, which is causing problems with your melody because you're probably hearing the beat differently in your head. Or imagining it different, but you're kind of forcing this BPM. Okay. Now, with all that aside, if you just start this, if you just do this, do the tempo tapper at the beginning, everything will fall in line. I don't know why. I didn't create the universe. It's just how it works. Okay. It just works. Now, I know this because when I would make beats live for artists, right? Whether it's local artists or whatever, I would literally tell them, like, I would bring this out and I would tell them, and you could use the keyboard, and I'd be like, just tap the rhythm that's in your head, and they would do it. It'll be slow sometimes, right? It'll be super fast, right? But if you ever like recording an artist before, you can make a beat on your table with a pen or a pencil, and they would catch the rhythm and rap to it or something, right? So you're doing the same thing, but in your DAW with this. So say they tap it and it ends up being 169, right? Now you good. All you need to do is add a kick clap and some hi-hats, and it doesn't have to be anything crazy. And then you can start adding a rhythm after that. But instantly your beat will become more rappable just from this. So this is super underrated. And I see people not do this a lot, but obviously you can just make a beat just on any BPM, right? Obviously. But if you're struggling with this, I would say start with this and see if it helps. All right, so that's the tempo tapper. Let's move on to the next one. All right, so now we're going to do the key. And if you haven't noticed, a lot of this stuff is things that you do before you make the beat. Just want to point that out. So with the key, there's two ways you can approach it. You could just use a key that you really like, or you could just go by the vocal range of the artist. Now there's a general set of keys that the general population can like sing to, I guess, right? But I don't want to go too much in detail on this. I want to make a specific video on this topic, but just the rundown, you know, every person has a vocal range, right, that they can sing in, right? Some people have lower voices, mid and high pitched voices, right? So you have to cater to that as well when you work with artists. Because if you have a super high voice, it's gonna be hard for you to go super low, right? For me, I just use F sharp most of the time. It's just my favorite key because it's easier to make a melody. But after you make the melody, now it's time to make it rappable. And how you do that, you could transpose, and I'll just play it. Now this is what I want you to do. When you listen to it, just try to make a melody in your head. And some keys might be easier for you than others. Right, I'm sure one of those you probably favored more, right? And you could probably come up with like some words or a hook in your head. It may not be like a clear hook with words, but you can kind of hear like the tones, right? For me, this one right here, I could hear something, and then the original, obviously, because that's the one I made. Now, this is important. Don't expect, if you cannot come up with a melody to your own beat, do not expect another artist to be able to come up with one. Don't be like, oh, you're an artist, you should be talented. No, that's BS. If you cannot come up with a melody just by hearing your own melody, absolutely do not think that an artist can do it. All right, maybe they can, but just assume that they can't. You should be able to instantly just sing to your own beat. All right, so that's all I'm gonna say on this. let's move on to the next one. All right, so now we have the time. Now this, I can imagine, is where people are messing up. Okay, so your melodies probably look like this, right? And then you copy it over, you put some notes for variation, and you're done. Okay, which, like I said, this could work for sure. Like I said, melodies are unpredictable sometimes. Like sometimes everything just works perfectly, but other times they don't. So I'll play it and you'll instantly hear that's a little too fast. Okay. Okay, not bad, but if I was an artist, I would probably be like, okay, it's a little too fast. Now, how do we fix this? Well, there's a method I like to call just the stretch and squeeze. Okay, so basically the idea of this is the lower your BPM, the faster and shorter your melody should be. And the faster your BPM, the slower and longer your melody should be. All right, so that's the stretch and squeeze. So stretch would be in this scenario where we have a 160 BPM or higher or whatever, right? So what we want to do is Control A and then hold Alt, and you see this arrow, you just stretch it. You literally stretch it. Now you could choose what you want to stretch across. It could be literally just your melody, or it could be whatever you want, but I usually do the whole entire thing. Okay. So when you do this, now you have more room to increase the BPM, right? And all types of stuff. So now I'll play it and then I have to mute this stuff. Right, and now it's a lot more rappable and you have a lot more room, right? Because it's less clutter. Like it's like a whole second almost to just say stuff, right? I'm gonna pull this back. All right, and then the squeeze would be, well, actually, I probably should have left it how it was. Hold up. Pull this back. So now the squeeze would be is if we had like a 120 BPM, right? Now, obviously, this might be way too slow. Right, that might be too slow. So we want to squeeze it down, right? Now, obviously, you'll have to make adjustments, right? Because not everything is going to work perfectly, right? I just made this to work for the sake of the video. And let me pull this all back. Now, there is a gray area, which is 135 to 145. Now, you could obviously turn down a BPM, but sometimes I'm gonna tell you, when the artist, when they have their mindset on the BPM and the melody, they don't want to change it. So sometimes you gotta make workarounds, because yes, you can turn this down and make it sound a lot better. And I still think that's a little too fast in my opinion. And we could play everything with it so you can kind of see how it will sound. All right, and when you add drums and basses, it kind of gives you an idea if it's more rappable or not, right? So let me see, is that it for this part? Well, I guess I could show you the comparison of this and the stretched version. Okay, so just keep in mind this gray area 135, 145 is kind of like the general BPM, but like I said, you know, some people might be like, oh, you can just turn the BPM down. No, sometimes the artist wants a fast BPM. So how you work around that, you stretch it or you squeeze it, depending on what they want. If they want 120, you want a Gunna style beat or something like that, then you have to squeeze it down, right? That's when you get the guitar melodies. And then, you know, 170, 160, you'll probably have to stretch it because this is way too fast. You know, granted, I like it like that. It sounds good to me, but you know, it's not gonna work in a song, right? So we stretch it. All right, and I'm gonna just go ahead and go to pattern 4, where everything is already mapped out. right? And now you can see everything is more rappable. So this is the big chunk of the video. So now we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next part. All right, so now we're gonna do the breakpoint, which is basically just simplifying the melody at certain points in the beat, just to give it room. This is like a trial and error thing you can try, but first I want to show you this, which is like the animated part, right? Now I will argue that this part is a lot harder to come up with something than the chords, right? Just the plain chords, because if you look, a lot of these notes aren't really giving us time to really say anything, right? Because they just keep playing over and over. Now there are examples of songs where this works, right? But a lot of this is done on purpose, right? But if you don't do it on purpose, sometimes it may not work. Sometimes it will, right? But in this case, we're just gonna act like it doesn't work. All right, so I will argue this is harder to rap on. All right, now when you do post-processing, you can kind of get more creative, right? Because the rhythm is there, the vocals are down, so you can kind of mess, you know, really do what you want, right? But we're talking about while recording, right? Or just listening to the beat and trying to rap to it. So I'll argue this is a lot easier to rap on. Right, you can see all this space to kind of come up with something. Okay, so now I'm gonna show you, we have the melody. So if your whole melody looks like this, what you could do to give a breakpoint is just delete top melody and you can have this bottom part. Now, how would this look in the playlist? Well, we can go down here, and this is just some quick ways I just thought of. So we have this first pattern with the melody, and then all I did was just cut it in half, and then where is it at? Add this breakpoint, and this is like a hook type of thing, right? Because most hooks are structured like this. Is like the melody kind of plays, and it's like a low point, and then on the second part of the melody, it pops back in, right? And just giving it a little breakpoint, so it's not too repetitive. And then we have something like this where it plays all the way through, and then the second part, the melody is off, right? And this is not very common, but this is just some other ways you can think about doing it. It's up to you, your creativity, how you want to do it. But that's the breakpoint. Very simple, just some things you could troubleshoot to do to kind of fix any issues you have with your beat. All right, so let's move on to the next one. Okay, so now we have the consistency. Now this is something that's very subtle. You don't have to worry too much about it. But sometimes this may be the issue, and you may not be able to find the issue because it's so subtle, right? It could literally just be one note. You could have a beat that's 2 minutes long and it'll literally just be one note, right? So this is like the idea of bounce, right? That I would like on a beat, right? Now where consistency come in is when you make it a little bit predictable. Now, being predictable, you can still be unpredictable. Like you can add notes in there, you can add some, you know, octave jumps or whatever. But the rhythm, I feel, should be somewhat predictable, okay? Because if someone's rapping on it, that's what creates nice little flows and stuff, is when the rhythm is consistent and somewhat predictable. Now, if this rhythm is playing throughout the whole song, and then I just go ahead and just do something like this, right? It's a little off-putting, right? Or even something like this. You can see it's literally one note difference, right? We could even do something like this. Does it sound good? Yeah, right here, right? But if I have something like this, the entire beat, right? And then out of nowhere, I just go and switch it up. Now it's a little inconsistent, right? So this is just something to watch, to look out for, right? Let me highlight this one more time. Okay. So if you want to do something like this, make sure you maybe do it a few more times than just once. All right. So if you want to do that, right, put this rhythm. Right. And now you can see it kind of all works together now. Just a real quick note. So when you do stretch your notes out and everything, your rhythm will change. So this is the longer one, right? This is the same exact pattern, right, as the shorter melody, right? Up, pull it back in. But you can see it's a little off. right? Doesn't sound bad, but if you want that bounce, you will have to adjust these, right? So I like to put them on the chords the longer the melody is. And that's just like my little tip that you could use. So I'll just play it now. Right? So that's just a little note to keep in mind, right? And like I said, this is something subtle. This is not a big deal. It's just, if you're still having issues, you could check to see if this is something that that may fix your rappable issues, right? But all right, so that's it for this one, and then we got one bonus one, so let's go ahead and move on to that. All right, so our bonus would be the ambience. Now, what does this mean? Sometimes the sound you use is the reason why it's not rappable. So you might need to change the sound or add effects. I prefer filters, delay, and reverb, stuff like that. Now I have a pad sound. It's the same melody, but you'll see it'll become a little bit more rappable because everything is kind of diluted into one. It's not like very distinct, right? So you could play it. Well, I'll play the first one and show you what I mean. As a matter of fact, let me grab the annoying melody for a better example. Right? Obviously very difficult to rap on. But if we add this pad or this very ambient one, it'll be a little easier because everything is kind of melting into one another, all the notes. Right? Instantly way more rappable than this, right? So keep in mind that sound could also be the reason, right? And that's just a quick one. All right, but that's gonna be it for this video. Hopefully this was helpful. Let me know down in the comments if it was. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.